Hello, I'm Dr. Angie McCartney.
And I'm Ruth McCartney.
Welcome to TeaFlix,
where each episode's intimate conversation features a fascinating guest across the spectrum of Beatles world, pop culture, Grammy winners, the music industry, chefs, producers, music stars, actors, and more. So bottoms up and join us as they spill the tea on TeaFlix. Show time, and it's Mark Zuckerberg has confirmed we are live.
Oh, yes.
Proofoflife.com.
I remember you saying yesterday that Mark Zuckerberg was probably still at school when you did whatever it was.
Yes. Oh, God. Well, he's terribly young to be so rich.
Yeah.
So welcome, kids. We have a fantastic guest today that we actually got to hang out with in Malibu yesterday, city dropping. And can you see us, Mart?
Yep.
Okay, good. And very excited to get Jim on in a couple of minutes. So we did a wonderful presentation at the invitation of last week's guest, Richard Gibbs, at the Composers Breakfast Club, which was lots and lots of fun. And Jim came, and we discovered that he and Angie have more than just the love of music and piano in common. They both made the ballot for audiobooks. Angie's is poetry, and Jim's is narrated audiobook for this year's Grammys. So if there are any voters watching, there's Angie's and my book, Liverpool Limericks. And without further ado, to talk about this fabulous tome, tuned in, here, ladies and gentlemen, here's Mr. Jim Wilson.
Hello, darling. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. I'm just finishing up my tea, you know. I don't know if you've ever heard of this wonderful tea.
Oh, jolly good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Strawberry Green Fields, huh?
I'm sorry. Must have the pinky out to do it properly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, go. Welcome, guys. And thank you for making the time, Jim. I know Grammy season is absolutely crazy.
Yes.
For you. And
it's
you
now
have been pulling out all the stuff. So congratulations on making the 67th ballot to both of you.
Yeah.
That's great news.
Mm-hmm.
And straight off the top, let's talk about the book. What was the catalyst, well, not catalyst, the impetus for writing this book about your life in music and piano and with all the stars you've worked with? But what was the kernel of the idea?
Well, in the pandemic, I started writing down some of these stories that I've had the extraordinary fortune of being able to experience, of getting to sit on the same piano bench as a certain Liverpudlian and sing Beatles songs in it. And limo rides with Elton John and road trips with Carole King. I started writing these stories down, and soon enough it became a bigger narrative about insecure West Texas kid leaves his hometown to pursue his artistic aspirations. Piano tuning that was going to be a sideline kind of got me swept up in this unexpected success in the 80s. I helped develop the first MIDI adapter for acoustic piano. And that led me to some rare air, like I said, being flown to England a dozen times by Paul and others. And then really, to get to your question, what was the impetus? The first impetus was to get these stories down. And then the next thing that really propelled me as an artist, and also as an author, was in 1997, my best friend died of a heart attack at the age of 37.
Oh.
And that I had some other loss. My brother died of a heroin overdose at 23, and it was brutal.
No boy.
But it was Claude's passing that really put things in perspective for me. And I had this fear of kind of stepping out as an artist, because I was surrounded by all these amazing artists and musicians. And who the hell do you think you are to step out as an artist?
I know.
Well, I realized with Claude's passing that momentarily losing face is a far less horrible fate than dying with a dream in your heart. And to answer your question, the biggest impetus for me creating my music and me creating this book is knowing that any moment, any of us could get that little tap on the shoulder, time's up, pencils down, turn in your assignments as is, let's go, it's over.
That's
And
right.
I saw how easily those dreams could vanish with Claude, because Claude Gaudet, my dear friend, was a really successful singer, a songwriter with hits by Celine Dion and etc. David Foster's right hand man, and but he had played me about a month or so before he died this beautiful sonata on piano, and this was his real dream, is to step out as an artist. And I knew how scary that was. You know, it's all nice, it's all fine and well to have this great success
Sure.
as a songwriter, but you know, if you really have something to say, that's what you want to do, and that's, you got to slay the dragon, you got to pick up the sword and go for it. And I saw how quickly that could vanish with Claude. So every single CD that I've done, I have 10 albums to my name now, 4 times on the Billboard Top 20, 100 million streams of my music, and 2 PBS specials. Every single one of those achievements, I have Claude in my mind, realizing how quickly and easily this could all be over in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to, it's my legacy, you know, and same thing with my book, Angie, and thank you for your kind words about the book. You wrote me a lovely email. This is my legacy. And my audiobook now, I've been saying that if there was any one thing that was left behind after I'm gone, it's my audiobook, because that's everything. It's a culmination of my life work. That's the story that hopefully moves people to get into pursuing their dreams if they're hitting the snooze button like I was. It's the best of my music. It's some fun sound design stuff, and so I'm honored to be on the ballot this voting season. So tunedinfyc.com.
That's right. Tunedinfyc.com. Yeah, please, if you're I don't want to break any rules here because I'm not on it. I can't solicit, but it is a fantastic book, and that's what I am allowed to say. So head on over there. Yeah. It's funny, you're speaking about time. You know, my dad, Jimmy Mack, always used to say procrastination is the thief of time. Yet the same man was so time regulated throughout his life. Ange would say to him, "Are you hungry for some lunch?" And he'd say, "I don't know. What time is it?"
What time is it? And I still do it to this day. We all live together. And if Ruth and Martin are going out for lunch, she'll say to me, "Shall I prepare you some lunch?" And I always say, "What time is it?" Yeah.
And John Lennon never used to wear a watch, certainly when he was around, you know, on the weekends or whatever. And this conversation happened once at the lounge at Rembrandt, and said, "Would you like some, Scotch beef and broth barley soup
Cross
or some
and Blackwell's
Scotch broth soup?
Scotch
you know, it's a
broth,
cold day. Would you like a bowl of soup?" And my dad said, "What time is it?" And John looked at him and just said, "It's now.
It's now.
The time is now."
Yeah.
I love that.
That was it. Yeah. Typical Johnism, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now.
Time is now.
John, right?
Yeah. No. And speaking of losing Claude at a very young age, you know, in our world, we lost John like that.
Yeah.
Right.
In a second. He was working up until the end. At least he was still pursuing his dream. But so many people are just like, "Oh, who's going to buy? I can't.
I haven't got time.
I haven't got time. I'm busy with it." Make time.
Make time.
If it's for you and your soul and your creativity,
That's
do
it.
it. Just
That's exactly right.
I started making time when I was 82.
Yeah, she wrote her first book at 82, and she's still.
Oh my.
This one came out this week. All You Need Is Tea. I think you saw.
All You Need Is Tea, which I perused yesterday. It's so good. And I love reading about PG tips, of course, and PG stands for pre-jest or something like that.
I don't even remember.
I researched it so long ago, I've forgotten.
Yeah, it takes a while to get these things out.
One lady I spoke to yesterday, she said, "So what is in your Rockstar tea?" I said, "You know what? I've got 13 flavors. I couldn't for the life of me tell you what it consists of."
Several. It's calendula and chamomile and all kinds of tea. We took some Rockstar tea to Richard for his throat yesterday. So
brilliant.
Hopefully he'll feel better. So
what lessons did you take from working with world-renowned artists like Paul McCartney, Elton John, Carole King, Dan Fogelberg?
And that was the MIDI thing, just to set it up for the views. That was your MIDI invention that got you in those rooms, right?
That's exactly right. And to tee that conversation up, there is a theme in my book called The Power of One. one moment, how one little gesture can take you down roads that you never thought of, and it can change your entire life, change your world. Hi, Nan. Thank you. But one of those moments was me tuning a piano at Name That Tune, a TV show.
Yeah.
And I noticed a guy across the way, and I wonder if that's Chuck Monty. And he's a famous guy, and before the internet. So I decided, what the heck, I'm going to go introduce myself. Long story short, because I took that little moment to introduce myself, that led to me helping to develop the first MIDI adapter for acoustic piano, which put me in all this rare air that we're talking about.
And for those who don't know, the musical interface, right? So MIDI, M-I-D-I.
MID, musical instrument digital interface, and it was this adapter would go underneath the keys of your piano and allow you to hook up synthesizers to your piano, or you can take the MIDI signal out of your piano and go into a computer. So this rocket ship built for one took me to places, like I said, sitting, and there's meeting a celebrity, and then there's meeting a Beatle, and of course. Your story yesterday, Ruth, about you as a youngster, you and Paul, and the Golden Slumbers thing. It's just so amazing. Of course, you're a kid and it doesn't register. But I mean, for any of us punters out here who've listened to, who watched the Ed Sullivan Show when we were kids, and just that we were part of this tectonic
moment,
this explosion, it registers so deeply into your DNA. But to get to your question, what did I glean from all these people? Getting to be in that rare air and to watch their creative processes, firsthand, that front row seat, because I'm a cheeky bastard. Let's be honest here, No. I'm on a mission to do this work for them, but I happen to like engaging with people. So in many cases, as a result of my being there to work on their piano, it would be a relationship would develop and a kinship, and man, just this magical 4-hour hang with Paul and at Hog Hill Mill Studios down in Icklesham, and at the end of which he says, anytime you're in the UK, just give us a bell. Nice. And I did. I went to Pease Marsh, to the home or the studio a dozen times, and such a great, charming guy. And but being in that jet stream, that it just kind of being privy to that creative process. Cheeky bastard that I am. A quick story about Paul. I head back to my hotel in London, and I'm thinking, God, I felt like we had this incredible kinship, and he said to call anytime. What the hell, I'm going to do it. And me being the cheeky bastard that I am, I'm thinking, I've got this song idea that, in progress. Maybe he'll write it with me. Who does that?
You never know. Yeah.
Never know.
I knew that I would forever beat myself up if I had the at-bat and I didn't take the swing.
100%.
So it's a Sunday night. I'm in Earl's Court Hotel, and I take a shot of tequila. I pick up the phone, and, oh, hey, how you doing, man? Yeah, good to see you. We had a nice little chat, and so, Paul, I've got this song idea that it needs some lyrics. Oh, I see. Technician.
Oh, that again.
Texas right away. He wants to start writing with the Beatles. Is that it?
Yeah.
As he should. And he said, "Oh, good. I was thinking I would call you anyway. If you're in town, let's have you out to the home." And so I did. I mustered the nerve to ask him the question. I went down to the house and had tea and bickies with him and Linda, and he described the process of how he, designed this house, and all right, come on, let's hear your idea. So we went into the music room, and I sat down at the piano and just took a deep breath, and I went, okay, this is it. Just take the swing. So I started playing the idea, and he genuinely liked it. He goes, yeah, that's lovely. Play it again. So I did, and he jumped in with this harmony right on top of my melody. I'm just thinking, holy shit, just be here. This is really happening. And yeah, what would we call it? He's saying, and so we kicking around lyric ideas, and nothing ever came of it. I left him a cassette tape of it, but just sort of being in that zone with, that little creative space, that lit something up in me. And to get a little bit woo-woo here, there's a term in the spiritual world called Shaktipa. When you are in the presence of an enlightened master, a guru, you start vibrating at a higher level, because we are all just vibrations. We are all just atoms vibrating at a certain level. And to be in that zone with Paul, not to elevate him to deity status, but to be in that zone, it just kind of awakens something up in you where you go, oh, wow, this is a new type of possibility of way of seeing things comes up, right?
Quick chorus. If you can ring my bell. All right. I mean, that's it. When somebody rings your bell.
That's right.
It's like when I met Martin at a funeral. I saw him across the church, and it rang my bell. It's a vibration that you feel. It's like when you fall in love with somebody, or you write. I've written 350, 400 songs, and some of them I'm really proud of, and some of them just didn't really quite ever get anywhere because I didn't vibe with the person I was writing with. It's a real chemistry thing, and it's a metaphysical thing. I agree with you, absolutely. Well, that was the true magic of the Beatles, being all from the same town at the same time in the same place, and then coming to America 3 months after you'd lost JFK. Right. Yeah, worst Christmas ever, and boom, February, out comes the Beatles. I mean, it was all just the universe putting divine intervention in my world. The Beatles happened for a reason. 100%.
For you to be right there, sort of at ground zero, and you're 100% right. That narrative is one of my favorite stories of all time. The planets aligning, how they all aligned, like you said, the JFK assassination, and even backing up from there. Going to Hamburg, the 10,000 hours, as Malcolm Gladwell calls it,
Yes.
Coming back, and George Martin and Brian Epstein, the whole confluence of all those planets aligning in just exactly the right place at exactly the right time in human history. Yeah. You couldn't have a phenomenon like that again, because there was a certain cloistered naivete to our society that allowed that kind of thing to happen. So, oh my God, look at these.
And it was also organic, it did just happen. And I have a theory that Stuart Sutcliffe was an amazing artist, lovely man, and a wonderful musician.
Yes.
And Pete Best is an incredible drummer, but there was, Pete was born in Madras, India. Stuart was born in Edinburgh, Scotland. They weren't Scousers. There was one ingredient missing, and it had to wait for Ringo. And Ringo and Paul are both left-handed, so they groove on a whole nother level. Right, they're both south.
Right. That's right.
And then they went to Hamburg and recorded My Bonnie as a background with Tony Sheridan, and somebody took 5 copies of the single home to Liverpool, and fans kept coming into NEMS and asking for it. And Brian Epstein's like, "Well, who are the damn Beatles? I better go and see them."
That's right. And he nips down to the cavern at
That's his history.
Yeah, no, it's one of the most compelling narratives of our time. I read every single book I can about it, because it never grows tiresome.
Well, and again, speaking of happenstances, the Beatles were going out. It was September of '63. The Beatles were going out on a mini tour from London Airport to Sweden.
Yeah.
And Ed Sullivan was trying to fly back to New York from London Airport, and they were all delayed. They never would have met, but the fog bank came in, the flights were delayed, and they all wound up in the VIP lounge. And Ed Sullivan was looking at these 4 lads, and obviously who's their manager, and he goes over and says to Brian, "Who are these?" And he said, "Oh, they're quite the big deal in Hamburg and Liverpool, and we're going to Sweden." And he gave him his card and said, "Well, if you ever get to the States, I'll put him on my show." If it had not been foggy that day.
Right. And then, of course, there's the issue of them trying to get a record deal in the States, and they can't get arrested. put their music out, and nobody's really listening to it. And wasn't it like Murray the K, the DJ in Buffalo, New York, or something, who gets this request? Hey, can you play some Beatles?
The first people to play the Beatles were in Chicago, Illinois, and that was down to Louise Harrison, George's sister, who was living in Benton, Illinois. And George would send her these little 45 acetate, pressings, no label on them, just the demos. And she would repeatedly, God rest, get in her car and drive from Benton all the way up to Chicago and go knock on radio station doors and say, my brother's in a group in Liverpool. Do you want to be the first person in America to play them? And it was because of Louise then that word got out on Chicago radio, and New York fans started asking Murray the K, who are the Beatles?
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's all part of that fantastical.
I also strongly feel that Jeff Emmerich was a big part of this.
Oh, 100%.
Sure.
As things began to expand in the way of techniques and technology
And sound.
I mean, he was very young. Fortunately, we hooked up with him
just before he
died. Yeah.
We hired Jeff to mix and master a version of called Things We Said Today by one of our clients, Nick Marichal, who is an incredible musician and singer. And so I actually got to work with Uncle Jeff in my grown-up 50s years, which was such a blast for me because, I known him when I was 7, 8, 9. And now here we are, fast forward in Hollywood. And, Jeff and I are having tea and toast in the studio kitchen again. It was great. It was really good.
Brilliant.
But we're getting way off the track. So have you got any, you've sat in rooms and studied people like Elton John and Carole King. Is there a commonality to their working process or their creative process, or are people like chefs just so different that all the ingredients, are different?
Well, I often think about the time to get to your point, and this story kind of really illustrates that burning desire that every artist has. I remember being at Paul and Linda's home, and hey, I've got to go into Linda and I have to go to London today, but help yourself to whatever's in the fridge. And so I worked on the home piano for a while. By the way, all 4 kids came in one by one, Mary and Heather and James. So wonderful, and not a sense of entitlement whatsoever. But I'm in his studio and I'm looking around at all these paintings in progress in his music room. And I'm thinking, here's a guy who has literally changed the world with his music, who has made so much from the royalties from their songs. He nor Mary nor James or anybody ever have to work a day in their life if they don't want to.
Right.
But here he is answering to the muse. He's painting because he loves it. You learn to respect and the process.
Right.
You're drawn into the actual need to create, and he does that. He just continues to create, and every artist will have a dry spell and hit the better songs. And by the way, I so enjoyed listening to your music yesterday, and Ruth has a wonderful background as an artist. And
thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Singing in Russian was not part of my plan, but hey, it happens. No, I mean, I think that's also genetic. My dad had a band called Jim Mack's Band in the 1920s. It was a full-on 20-piece, orchestra.
That's right. Yeah.
And he composed a song called "Walking in the Park with Eloise," which is in Paul's newsletter this month, actually. Okay. That when Paul and Linda were recording in Nashville in 1972, 3, 4, somewhere in there, he was in a session with Chet Atkins and Floyd Kramer, and he remembered this old ragtime. It was. I guess ragtime is the best way of calling it, right?
Yeah.
A song that my dad had written, and he called, and Ange answered the phone, and he said, "Is my dad there? Can you drag the phone over to the piano? Can you get him to play that song?"
Oh my gosh!
He couldn't remember the middle 8.
Right.
Middle 8.
Yeah.
So they gave it a title, and the one and only song my dad ever wrote was recorded by Paul and Linda McCartney, Chet Atkins, and Floyd Kramer, whom my dad had never heard of.
Oh my God! Wow.
That was the kicker.
Right.
So, but again, Paul is, he collected Magrittes and Picassos and stuff as a smart thing to do when I was growing up, but I'm sure he'd rather paint his own. It's just in the DNA. It's created. His brother Mike McGee and McCartney is an incredible artist, writer, satirist, poet, doodler.
I would think he's a polymath.
Mike is a polymath, and his daughter Benna, my niece, Angie's granddaughter, has an art exhibition opening last night in Brighton, UK. So it goes on and on.
As they say, it runs in the family like wooden legs.
like wooden legs. How old were you, Ruth, when Angie married Jim and you were 4?
4.5. It was
almost 5.
Almost 5. It was the November.
And Paul would have been how old then?
22.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's really a big brother.
Yeah, right. A really big brother. 18-year difference. But so to get back to you, why do you think it's speaking of my niece, Benna, she's a lot younger than I am. So why do you think it's important to cultivate music as a part of the education curriculum? Young people.
Well, it's vital, music speaks to us on a level that we can't even articulate, and let's look at the pragmatic benefits of it. It really helps to develop the mathematical part of your brain.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So never mind the artistic part of it, which, I'm a campaigner for advocate for the arts, and we need to cultivate that in all kids. It should be, required, that you take some sort of music classes and art classes. It helps you develop an appreciation for the finer things in life. Even if you never go on to play piano or whatever, it awakens a part of you, a higher part. But even never mind that. Just the fact that when you study music, it is scientifically proven that the mathematical part of your brain picks up too. So they're very related. The relationship between 1 to 5 and 1 4 and the minor 7, all the scale degrees, that kind of, and learning scales, that really helps that helps with the development of the mathematical part of your brain.
Yeah, no, I agree. And also the memory kernel, that they're now looking at, I don't know if you've ever seen an incredible film about Glenn Campbell called I'll Be Me. It was about his final years. Did you see it, Jim?
No, I didn't, but I think I know the gist of it. The Alzheimer's is taking over, and the music plugs into a deeper part of the brain.
Right. His daughter Ashley, who's a sweetheart, would go to the care home every day with one of his favorite guitars or a banjo, and she would sit and sing and play with him for hours, and he didn't miss a note or a lyric.
Tony Bennett was the same, wasn't he?
Tony Bennett was the same. Susan and his beautiful daughter Antonia had a piano player come 4 times a week and rehearse 4 hours with him, and he would stand at the piano and think he was in Carnegie Hall and just rock the apartment.
Yeah.
And yet it would sit him down for lunch, and he
know who people were.
He didn't know who they were, but he knew all of his songs.
Speaking of mental acuity, I can only pray that I have a fraction of the mental sharpness that you have, Angie, at 84 and 95 that I do at my age of 39, and what?
Yes, 36.
Your nose is growing.
Well,
thank you for that.
The memory does fade, and it's just remarkable. I love that you two get to do this wonderful venture together and hang out, and I'm sure it feeds and it keeps you alive and gives you a sense of purpose to be doing this.
What I do every night before, when she's had her glass bottle of wine, vat of wine, before I put it out for the recycling, I like to rinse the bottles and be nice to the people who collect the recycling. So I take the bottle brush and just jam it through both ears, give it a bit of a squiz around, and then that seems to be what keeps the plaque free. You see.
Well, the old joke about the guy who's like 98 or something, and who drinks a bottle of booze every day and smokes a couple of packs of cigarettes. And man, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. But so back to your career for a minute. Angie had a question about this.
Yeah. So how did it feel to have a number 2 album, Remembrance? in the Billboard charts for how long was it?
Couple
Couple of weeks in a row.
right?
Yeah, extremely gratifying. Extremely gratifying. I mean, and all of those stats, they're really great. But I have to say the most gratifying thing is to get an email from somebody who says, "I've listened to your music every morning. It helps recalibrate." I got my audiobook. I had somebody who had said, "I have read the book several times and they listened to the audiobook 6 times in a row." There we go. Speaking of which, tuned in Memoirs of a Piano Man, now available at all fine bookstores, wherever fine books are sold. And the audiobook, of course, is me narrating it. I had the option I talked with a well-known actor about possibly doing the narration for me. And I went over and had him do a little read for me. And it would have been great, but I realized there's nothing like as read by author.
Well, you've lived the experiences.
Yeah.
It's your book. Yeah.
And I must say it was a brutal experience. Not brutal, but I mean, I was every day when I would leave the studio after doing 3 or 4 hours of narration of this book, I was emotionally drained because this, as you've read, this is the celebrity stuff hanging with them. That's nice window dressing, but the deeper questions, I do a deep dive on, what happens to you when you go for your dream and you come face to face against these brick walls and obstacles, and you find the bottle to muster, to carry on. So I did leave some blood on the page with this book, and I'm so proud of it. And but the recording the audiobook was very emotional.
It is emotional. Martin produced a couple of audiobooks here at McCartney Studios, and I always make sure that the authors who come in to read, I will find out, sort of what their pace is, when they need a break, what they like to drink. We have one lady who only drank wonderful pomegranate juice, and she was a vegan. So I made sure in her break she got the right sustenance and put her in the right frame of mind. And she'd lost her husband suddenly. So I sort of, when we produce audiobooks, Martin does all the wonderful technical, audio stuff. And then it's sort of like I do the therapy bit. I take the time when somebody's coming in to make sure I'm around if they're feeling these ebbs and flows of emotion, reading back their own life story. Yeah. So you get a bit of time on the therapy couch with me, and then the rest of the time in the studio with Martin. Because it really is a roller coaster journey to read your.
It is, and it should be. It should be, you. And as I'm doing these reads in the studio, we kind of know when I'm on in the moment, and let's do that again. And if you're kind of checked out when you're reading something, it's like, okay, there's a better read. But when you're plugging into these deeper emotions, it can be brutal.
We've got an expert in that, watching our mutual dear friend Denny Tedesco.
I'd say he knows a bit about.
I'd say, directed the not just the Wrecking Crew, but the Immediate Family films, which is both required viewing for our viewers if you haven't seen either or both of those, or just see them again. And, Denny knows how to, as a director, what I've always loved about his work is he knows how to get a story out of somebody by sort of being a fly on the wall. He doesn't push them into, well, tell me about this or tell me about that. He really does have, as a director, the art of the conversation. I mean, he grew up in it with his dad, Tommy Tedesco. Right. And the funny backstory about the 80s, I was working in the film business, and I got my NABIT card, and I was learning to be a grip and a gaffer and all of these things. So I would volunteer for all kinds of crazy music shoots at night and so on. And on one of these call sheets, I saw Denny's name, and I went, I wonder if he's any relation to Tommy Tedesco, because Tommy was in the Partridge Family and David Cassidy was my childhood crush. I'm like fangirling all over. I go to the call sheet, and I go, are you any relation to Tommy Tedesco? And he's
stalking
like,
at a very
that was my
early
dad.
age.
I'm like, oh, does your dad have, because Tommy was still with us then, does your dad have any backstage Partridge Family stories? It's kind of a weird. And Denny and my husband and I are still friends to this day. So
lovely, yeah.
He's also got a dog in the race for the Grammys for Best Music
That's right.
Film this year.
Yes.
Great film, really.
Yeah, really is.
Mhm.
So, when you met Chick Corea, right? That then opened other doors. You working on people's pianos like Janis Ian and God knows who. Do you have any funny back in the day celebrity stories from?
No funny stories at all.
None, because you have no sense of
Not
humor.
funny.
Question. No, the Chick Corea thing, I mentioned earlier that there's that power of one theme throughout my book, and how one moment can change everything. I had left Amarillo, Texas to go to LA to become the next Jackson Browne. And as I like to say, I instead became the next Jackson Browne piano tuner.
Well, it's a step in the right direction. Isn't it?
It's a step in the right direction. So it was a 2-day drive. I get to Los Angeles at 6 p.m. on a Monday. My roommate then says, hey, let's go hear this band. They're called Just for Grins. They're playing in Burbank. It's a bunch of studio musicians. They're all great, and they play just for fun. 6 p.m. I arrive. 9 p.m., 3 hours on LA soil. We go to hear this band. They're all great musicians. They become great friends. Tony McShear is one of the. He popped in a little comment a minute ago, and every single one of the guys in that band became friends and champions of my music. And this one led to me restoring a piano for Supertramp. That one led to me going over here for Seals and Crofts. And then this one led to that one, which led to me tuning for Chick Corea. And so I'm literally just fresh out of piano tuning school. And I'm kind of, just kind of winging it here. And Chick Corea was, for those in the know, who aren't, he was a legendary, iconic jazz musician. Mm-hmm. And to earn his respect, and they gave me some street cred, and the Just for Grins band. But that was one of my first celebrity encounters. And the great thing about my entree into this world is 90% of the time it's because I'm being ushered in at a high recommendation. You got to use this guy. He's really great. And so there's a certain amount of respect, as opposed to just if I'd have just gone up to Chick Corea at a
business card, I tuned in.
Hi, I'm a big fan, and I've been down that road before, but it sure is nice when you're ushered in, like with Paul. David Foster is a tuning client to this day for 40 years, a respected producer, and he had just worked with Paul on the Broadway, give my regards to Broadway album.
Broad Street.
Yeah. Right. Broad Street, yes. And so I had just midied David's piano, and he was all on fire about this. David had just gotten back from England. So David, how would you like to be the guy who turned Paul McCartney onto this really cool new invention? And I still remember the day standing on Barham Boulevard in the rain at a payphone, hearing on my answering machine David Foster's assistant, Chris Earthy, saying, "McCartney is a go." It's like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
How cool if I were just able to, I wonder if he'll even be home. If I can just say, "Hi, pleasure to meet you." And man, little did I know what.
It's funny how you remember specifically where you were when you got those important phone calls. We were very, very early into QR codes 20 years ago. And Bill Clinton was coming. The Bill Clinton Foundation was doing a big thing at the Hollywood Bowl featuring Lady Gaga, a fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And I was hell for leather trying to get, you had to have a BlackBerry in those days, and B, they didn't even call them apps. You had to have a program on your phone that could scan QR codes. But I thought, what the hell? This is Hollywood. Somebody will have it. We're going to create a code, which wasn't so easy in those days, and put it up on the screens at the Hollywood Bowl, and people can scan it. And then they'll be able to then go. And we built the whole back end e-commerce prior to PayPal being a thing, whatever. And I'm like, I am going to donate this to the Clinton Foundation to raise my QR. How am I going to make this happen? So I made a bunch of phone calls. And then I went to Toronto to a music festival, caught SARS, which was no fun. And I'm sweating, almost dead on the floor in Toronto airport, waiting for my plane to the plane to come to the gate, hoping they're going to let me on it because I'm just shivering. And my BlackBerry goes off. And it's, hi, is this Ruth McCartney? Yeah. Doug Band, hold please. I have President Clinton for you. That's you. I'm sneezing all over the place.
Don't you dare die.
I was like, I can't die before we get this done, but we got it done. And the people were, when you came into the Hollywood Bowl, there were banners with the QR code, and I got to tell everyone how to make it work and so on and so forth. So you will never forget where you are when you got that call, right?
That's exactly right. And speaking of the Hollywood Bowl, Angie, you emailed me last night to say that you loved the book. So thank you. Did you enjoy the Hollywood Bowl story?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not the story I enjoyed most, if it doesn't upset you, is your relationship with your son.
Yeah.
The whole thing. I had a little weep last night, and then I thought, oh, to hell, I'm not going to bed. I'm going to finish this because I'd had so much going on at the moment. My reading time and listening time is a bit limited.
Yes.
But after meeting you yesterday and it being so nice, and I felt like I'd known you all my life.
Me too.
Yeah.
I needed to finish. And yes, your relationship with your son, just amazing. And it made me think of our relationship.
Yeah.
I loved when you said that after all you'd gone through, the only person you needed to forgive was yourself.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
You know, we're all so quick to, I don't know, we put up these defenses, don't we? And we're like, just.
Well, he should have. Why did he? And
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah.
But
one never knows what goes into it. Yeah.
No.
And to the listeners, what she's talking about is, when I was a freewheeling, can't tie me down musician when I'm 19 years old. I got a phone call from a girl I'd been seeing, and she was going to be a mom and I was going to be a dad. Well, that was the last thing I really wanted to hear at that point, because I was going to move to LA. And she, to her credit, she said, no, don't worry. I'll never make this a drag for you. To whatever degree you want to be a dad, you can. And, she could have vilified me for being a irresponsible, 19-year-old kid, which I was. And honestly, it freaked me out at the time. And as you found, to spoiler alert, the most gratifying narrative arc of the whole book is my transformation, and slowly but surely over the years, over the decades, embracing that role. And my God, it's the greatest blessing in my life. And I have my kids, grandkids on my phone. I was about to show you that, but it's just the greatest blessing in my life is.
Well, and God bless her for sticking to it and saying, this is what I want you. I'm not dragging you into it because, how old is your son?
I'm 39, so I'm not sure how it's possible that he would.
Nose is growing again.
But it wasn't. He's not a teenager. It wasn't yesterday for a woman to make a decision to go it alone like that.
That's right. Yeah.
A few decades ago was a ballsy decision. So
And to everybody's good fortune, she moved to be with family in Oklahoma City. She met somebody. She got married, and they all were on the same page. This is your stepdad. Your biological dad is this guy, and it's really to my good fortune, to everybody's good fortune, that she took that road. And we're all great friends, and I love my son Jason. We have the most wonderful gallows humor and dirty senses of humor, and text back and forth, and it's a load of fun. It's a load of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
No,
sure
absolutely.
Yeah.
So have you got one silly, before we start wrapping up? Have you got one just outstandingly silly or funny celebrity story you want to share?
Well, we made the reference to the Hollywood Bowl thing, where it's a roll of the dice where I'm going to end up on stage because I'm backstage working on Paul's piano, and Andrew Gold comes in and says, "Hey, you want to come sing with us for the big finale for this Earth Day benefit?" And I said, "Sure." So it's a roll of the dice. I end up standing right behind Paul, 17,000 people, Hollywood Bowl, singing, na, 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 na. But in terms of a fun story, there's a moment when I'm working on Paul's piano at the home, and they've gone to London. He comes back, and we're hanging out, and I'm getting ready to leave, and I'm in the hallway. I would love to know if James remembers this story, but 7-year-old James and I are standing in the hallway, and we're just kind of messing around, and I kind of hit him, on the shoulder, and he hits me back, and then I slug him again, playfully on the shoulder. Murdoch, the sheepdog, is having none of this. Oh, like hell, you're going to mess with my James. And Murdoch just chomps on me right in the center of my manhood.
Oh, boy.
And I screamed, and Paul and Linda came running in from the living room. What happened? And I said, well, Murdoch just bit me in the center of my existence. And says, well, you better go check and make sure everything's all right. So I went to the bathroom, and thankfully, no skin was broken. And I came back out, and
bit of a something about Mary situation. We got to bleed her.
We got to bleed her. And so we're having a laugh about it, and then Paul puts the perfect button on the whole thing. And he says, "Oh, come on, Jim, it's the best you felt all day."
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, up all night to get lucky.
Yeah, up all night to get lucky, exactly.
Yeah.
Which was another one of their dogs' names.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Oh, really? Get lucky? How funny!
Yeah.
Okay.
See what I did there? It was a dog. It was
brilliant. Lovely time. Yes.
Where can people find you online, and more importantly, if there are any Grammy voters watching, where can they find this online? And we must also say that you've done a fantastic Grammy campaign with Go Kerry Go, and happy birthday, Kerry Gogan.
That's right, Kerry. Happy birthday, Kerry.
Sent you a card this morning, a Blue Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
So, tell us.
Everything about the book is on tunedinfyc.com. We can maybe put that in the chat, tunedinfyc.com.
Yep.
And there's the whole prologue. We did a lovely little video, 13-minute video of the entire prologue of, beginning with, so you must be Jim, Paul's introduction, and me kind of going, holy shit, this is a Beatle. And, that what the emotions that you go through seeing somebody who's been like this icon your whole life in front of you. But more important than that, just meeting a celebrity, it's like how it moved me and how it inspired me on my own creative journey. And that's the message really that I hope people get from the book is life is short. Get on with your dreams.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, make that record, write that book, paint that painting. It's all about leaving what's in your heart behind for others, so it might be of service to people.
Or as Jimmy McCartney would have said, don't fart about.
Don't fart about, you know what I mean?
Farting about.
Stop farting about.
Stop
Absolutely.
Stop farting
So
about,
the regular viewers will know that we do a limerick because, like I said,
yes,
she is the limerick lady and she's on the ballot.
Right.
Shameless.
So for our very special guest, so are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin.
I have to put my reading glasses on.
Put her other bins on.
Yes.
Bins short for binocs. Okay.
Bins, got it.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
And a 1, 2,
2, 3.
Jim Wilson's got some tales to tell of pianos that have cast quite a spell. And tuned in, his book takes a much deeper look at his life, which is really quite swell.
I can die a happy man now.
Don't die.
No, don't. But that's
Yeah,
brilliant.
Carpet.
exactly. Well, what a joy it was to have you, and thank you so much. We'll also go to tunedinfyc.com and jimwilsonmusic.com to find out more about this fabulous man. And if you've got a piano that needs tuning, win the lottery and he'll come over. Fantastic. Thanks so much for making the time. This will go on our YouTube channel this afternoon.
Brilliant.
It will also be, the audio portion will be on our podcast on Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, or where you get your podcasts. So I hope to see you all of a sudden. And
All of a sudden.
Best of luck to both of you
Thank you.
with getting a Grammy nomination, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yes. Break legs.
We will see you kids next week.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, kids.
Much love.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Bye-bye.
my pleasure. Our pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to TeaFlix, and check out Dr. Angie's books, Organic Teas and CBD, at mrsmccartneysteas.com. Toodle pip!